All right, so I'm getting emails and things of that nature requesting me to talk about something that I kind of don't really care to talk about, but I feel like enough is going on to where I finally have something to say, and I'm just going to go ahead and say it. You may not like what I'm about to say, but just bear with me. You know, it's my opinion, just like all these other Sympathy for videos. But feel free to leave your thoughts and comments in the appropriate section. And you may know what I'm talking about. It is the summertime of 2013. I know that's dating this video, but whatever. It's Paula Deen. For those of you who watch the Food Network, you may be familiar with her. I don't watch the Food Network, so hence why earlier I mentioned I'm not really wanting to, or initially, not wanting to make a video about this. So this is a lady who, is known for cooking, point blank. She's got into some controversy in the past for putting butter on everything and saying, hey, butter makes things better, or whatever the hell her slogan is, when she herself is diabetic. So she's making these tasty entrees and she can't even consume them herself. So some people were rubbed the wrong way about that, They were like, how can you make something and you can't even eat it? You're basically killing us slowly with your stuff. It's like, well, you're watching her make this stuff. There's always McDonald's, right? There's other healthier options. I don't know. But I digress. Let's see here. Paula, she got into some controversy for the N-word. No, that word isn't nitrogen. You know what it is. You can find some other videos on the internet with people saying it. Probably even some of my own. And some can say, well, why is it fair that certain people can say it and others can't? Well, I don't make the rules. I just report on them. And basically it comes down to this. That word has a overtone when associated to a certain type of people. And in this country, the United States of America, that word was used as a weapon towards others. Now let's be clear. I do have friends of different nationalities who I'm sure they say the N-word when I'm not around. Some are bold enough to say it when I am around. But am I offended? No. A little uncomfortable sometimes. But here's the deal. It's like a weapon, okay? I give you a knife. I'm not threatened because you have a knife. If your intent is to cut your steak and eat it. I am threatened when you have a knife and use it in a manner of which it looks like you are trying to harm me with it. That's kind of how the N-word works. You listen to a Tupac song and you're in your car or whatever, some shitty rap music song, whatever it is you listen to, and the N-word comes along. Most of the time, you're with your black friends, and they'll say the word no thought about it because, and when I say the word, it's got an adjustment, right? You got the A instead of the ER. They say it no thoughts, no second guesses, whatever. But then when you're around your white friends, you might look and wait and see if they're going to say with the ER, just say it, period. Skip over it. I'm the rap ninja for that reason, right? So, long story short or longer, it's about the context. You're quoting a lyric, you're quoting somebody, or you're just, saying something, that's one thing. But you're trying to victimize someone, like, there's other examples of this, right? You got Dog the Bounty Hunter, who was recorded by his own son for saying, the N-word and, defense of his family and the fact that his son was dating an African-American woman. He was like, hey, look, this is not that big of a deal. But Dog was like, it's not to me, but we have people who say this word and I'm not trying to risk my entire career for this. And he did for a little bit. He did. That people got over it. Not sure if they forgave him, but, in the eyes of the American public, it's one of those things where you do something stupid You just wait a little bit. You know, the key thing is to shut the hell up for a while and let somebody else do something stupid. So a lot of guys don't catch on to that part. You have to shut the hell up for a little bit. R. Kelly shut the hell up for a little bit, and somehow we've looked past the fact that he peed on some little girl. You know, we don't forget it, but, you know, it's not something we're constantly talking about. People still go to his concerts, buy his music, whatever. Whereas the amount of hate and, you know, controversy and, you know, conversation that came up around it, you think this guy would have been ran out of town. He'd be under a rock somewhere and never to be spoken of again. So that's what Paula Deen is going through right now. But instead of shutting the hell up, she continues to apologize, albeit in ways that look very unsincere. You know, so I first heard of this when, you know, it was all over my Facebook news feed, Paula Deen. I'm like, who cares? I don't care. She said the N-word, big deal. Did she call someone the N-word? I don't know, those facts are out there, and honestly, I don't care enough to research. But the thing is, you know, I was told that I read somewhere that she was in a bank robbery once and went home and told her husband, you know, what happened, and he used the N-word when, you know, venting about it. Okay, whatever. But when it comes to recent stuff, it's all about your attitude, sweetie. We've all said things we don't like, but do you continue to harbor those feelings? You know what I mean? Like, don't apologize for saying the word if really you're just apologizing for getting caught. If you still have those feelings, and it seems like she does based on those videos, and again, this is just my opinion, like she's not really sincere about hurting anyone's feelings as much as she is hurting her career. It's one of those, you know, I'm sorry if I've offended you, but it's not, I'm sorry that I used those words, those were wrong. That's not the message that was conveyed. She may have said an apology that I haven't heard and actually said those words, but that's not the impression I got. So Paula, do yourself a favor. You've got the #1 selling book right now as I'm speaking, but you're getting dropped left and right by different sponsors. Why don't you just focus on yourself and moving on from this situation? Because no matter what, the more and more you defend yourself, the more guilty you look. You know what I mean? I go to the bathroom and crap all over the toilet seat, and a friend comes over and is like, did you do that? And I'm like, no. And then after the conversation, I'm still like, no, I didn't do that. I never do that. It's not really helping my cause. You know what I mean? Not really the best example. Probably a pretty shitty example, pun intended. But that's my view of the situation. You know, I'm sure somebody else will come along and say, you know, the N-word again or another offensive word, and hopefully they can see this video or, you know, wake up and realize, hey, don't make it a big deal. Yes, it's a word. We make these words weapons. It's all about context. And, you know, if you're a closet racist, but you're in the public eye, you know, how about you shut the hell up? I'm trying not to use the F word. I made, you know, a vow this video to have one up there without that. But, you know, for those of you listening, you're like, man, he's kind of tame with this one. But again, you know, it's one of those things where you give a word power. These words don't have powers. If it's a comedian saying the N-word, they say this stuff all the time. Nobody makes a big deal. But the friendly face of the Food Network, JCPenney, all these different franchises, they're not trying to be associated with that. Understand that. It might have been something you said 20, 30 years ago, but you've got this image that you have to uphold. That's why they sell your product. They're banking on your image. You can't get out there and say stuff like that. You got to do damage control swiftly and then just kind of fade out for a little bit. Let it do its time. But the more you continue to talk, the more you keep the conversation going, Paula, yourself and others. So that's the video for this week, and I will see you guys with another one soon. All right. Bye.